If Joe Biden wants to win in November, he'll need all the help he can get. He obviously has to do better in swing states than Hillary Clinton did in 2016. And it turns out there's a large group of voters who are very likely to support him, but who have never really been taken seriously by most politicians. I'm talking about the non-religious, atheists, agnostics, and people who just want nothing to do with organized religion, even if they believe in some higher power. If Biden can reach out to us, it's one way to make sure he's getting all the votes he can get. The question is how to do that, since the non-religious aren't exactly known for what we believe in. I'll get to that in a second. Look, it's no secret that the Republican base includes a lot of white evangelical voters. And I say white evangelical because I'm not talking about all Christians, just them specifically. Black Protestants tend to vote for Democrats. And the thing is, white evangelicals are active. They vote. They don't have the my candidate or bust mentality held by a handful of very proud people on the left. You know who I mean. And as a result, those Christians get pretty much whatever they can get regarding public policy and judges. They were not all in love with Trump in 2016, but 80% of white evangelicals voted for him. Some of them held their tongue while they did it, because he was the Republican on the ballot. And what did they get in return? Well, they got Mike Pence, one of their own, who's now one bad piece of fried chicken away from the presidency. They got a federal judiciary filled with unqualified ultra-conservative judges who have the power and desire to overturn civil rights law, outlaw abortion, make it harder for people to vote, etc. Of course, that includes 2 right-wing Supreme Court justices. They got conservative Christians all over the administration using their office to promote Jesus. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo won't stop talking about how he's using his role to spread the gospel message. We are seeing right now what happens in a pandemic when the people in charge don't respect or trust science as much as they should. The sort of administration that responds to a virus by proclaiming a day of prayer. That was weeks ago. It didn't help. I would say all of us are worse off because of how white evangelicals vote. The question for us then, and by us I mean the kind of predominantly liberal viewers who might watch this channel, is whether non-religious voters, not just atheists, can ever have the same clout on the other side. Theoretically, we could. According to a recent survey, evangelicals represent roughly 23% of the population. Catholics, who go both ways politically, are another 23%, and non-religious people are also 23%. Look at that. But in 2016, conservative Christians voted above their weight, so to speak. They were 26% of all voters. Non-religious people were only 15%. We need to do better. Democrats could help by talking more about our issues. So how should Biden or any other Democrat do that? I mean, we're not monolithic, certainly not as much as white evangelicals are. What is it that we as a group want? And again, I'm not just talking about vocal atheists, but people who don't belong to an organized religion, who may be apathetic about faith and maybe not likely to vote. You know, what do those people want? I would say, as a group, we're not asking for special treatment or a curtailing of anyone else's rights, but Democrats could excite us by making a big deal about a small handful of issues that many of us take seriously. Caring about science, protecting comprehensive sex education in school, recognizing the seriousness of climate change and taking steps to mitigate human impact, fighting for evidence-based policies in everything the government does, putting experts in charge of the departments they're running because education is good, promising less religious influence over the administration so that it's working for everyone, supporting women's rights and civil rights and LGBTQ rights and all those other issues that are routinely opposed by conservative Christians who cite their religion. I mean, I also want Biden to release a list of possible Supreme Court nominees who have a solid progressive background. I love Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but she won't be around forever. Those are not atheist issues. Those are issues that a lot of people, most people who are not connected to organized religion, would likely agree with. But Biden hasn't talked specifically about many of those things. I mean, sure, look, support progressive policies, period, and you will energize a base that got very excited for Bernie Sanders, who, by the way, I voted for in the primaries this year and in 2016. I mean, legalize marijuana, support healthcare for all, fix our criminal justice system. Yes, absolutely, keep fighting for that. But there are some issues that religion screws up more than others. Make it clear, Joe, that you won't allow that to happen, and you could excite a political base that has been ignored for too long. We are an untapped resource, and in an election where votes really will matter, especially in certain states, it's honestly irresponsible for Democrats running for any office to ignore us the way they have in the past. And before I turn off this camera, let me at least mention some potential problems with all this, because I know it's not as easy as rolling out some plans. Non-religious Americans, secular Americans, don't vote for Democrats as faithfully as white evangelicals vote for Republicans. In 2016, only about 70% of us voted for Hillary Clinton compared to 80% of white evangelicals who supported Trump. But we live in a two-party system, and only one party's platform even exists in the ballpark of the values most secular Americans share. Democrats need us, and I would think most of us want to vote for them given the alternative. But some people, and I saw this a lot the moment Bernie dropped out, still need more persuasion. They don't want to vote for Joe Biden just because he's the most viable alternative to Trump. Now, I happen to think that's ridiculous and immature, but also Democrats give them more reasons to vote for you and not just against Trump. The issues I mentioned are a way to do that, at least for some people, because you don't have to convert Trump voters to your side. What you need are more non-voters to get excited enough to get off their butts to vote for you. Look, a lot of us, myself included, will vote for Democrats up and down the ballot because I think we understand that the Republican Party as a whole is so much worse on issues that matter to us. Not because the Democrats are perfect by any means, they're not. But you know what? If you don't like Biden, join the club, then everything I'm saying applies to every other candidate too. This isn't about falling in love with one person. It's about making sure left-leaning progressive candidates are doing everything they can to reach potential voters. This is just smart politics. And it has the added advantage of not being off-putting to other parts of the progressive base, as well as swing voters who just want sensible politicians. I'm not asking candidates to do anything controversial here. And I want to stress, I'm not looking for any politician to endorse atheism. That's not their job. I don't need them to do that. Evangelicals like it, we typically don't. Remember, everything I'm saying here is about reaching those non-religious voters, the ones who might actually stay home on election day instead of voting at all, because they don't think anyone is paying attention to their needs. Democrats need them. They need to find a way to override that apathy. They might be able to do that by openly talking about these issues affected by religion, which they tend to avoid in the middle of the campaign. Not just Biden, but anyone running for statewide office or local office or anything else. I want Democrats to win. The question is, do they?